Hello and welcome to Mums, Work and Chaos. We all know the saying, it takes a village to raise a child, but where is that village? Well, I started this podcast to help you find yours, and I'm joined by some amazing guests this season, talking about subjects such as fast fashion, menopause, sex education and teenage behaviour, just to name a few. So join me this season and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome to this episode of Mums, Work and Chaos. The first we're recording in a studio. Oh, honestly, I'm so nervous. But today I am joined by the wonderful Lottie, presenter of Tits, Tums and All Things Mum. Hello and welcome.
Hello. It's weird being this side. I don't know if I like it. I'm normally that side. I've never sat this side before.
Well, yeah, now it's your turn to get grilled. I've just been on yours.
I know.
Now you're coming on mine.
And now you're grilling me. This is just so weird. I'm normally like the one answering all the asking all the questions.
It's a day of weirdness for the pair of us because we're both used to asking the questions, aren't we?
Definitely.
So, definitely. Get used to it. So, yes. Normally what I'd do is I'd ask my guests to introduce themselves and tell us a bit more about themselves. So
God, where do we even start? So I am Lottie, I'm mum of two, I'm a nurse, social media influencer, podcaster, and I own my own PR and marketing agency as well. And if you haven't been able to tell already from all of that, I have ADHD because I do all the things. So yeah, it's a massive juggle, but I love it. And I always say that ADHD is my superpower and is the reason that I've been able to do all those things and do them all like fairly successfully as well.
Yeah, I know a lot of you know that I am going through my own diagnosis at the moment. Well, I say going through. It's not even started yet. I got referred over 18 months ago and still
long old waiting
nothing.
List.
Yeah, my daughter's got her diagnosis and she's like the mirror image of me. She got diagnosed in December with ADHD. I have a very funny sneaking suspicion that I have a sprinkling of autism as well.
Just a sprinkling.
Just a sprinkling. But yeah, with the juggle of also 3 kids, full-time work and the podcast and all the other random shit that I do for people as well.
Yeah.
It is quite obvious when someone's got ADHD to me now. I'm just like, that makes sense.
They're usually the ones that are like flying quite high, doing a lot of things, like juggling a lot of plates. And you're just like, I see that. But that usually in a good way, quite successful.
I think the thing is that like for me, it's taken a long time to get used to the idea that I need several different forms of stimulation to keep me going in any one thing. Yeah. Like I think if I didn't have the podcast, I'd find work really boring and I might underperform at work. But because then I've also got other things to do and stuff as well, it really helps. Yeah. I was at my job for, I think, about 6 months before I then started the podcast. I was like, I need something else to do as well. Yeah. Because I'd gone from running my own marketing agency to having multiple clients in loads of different areas. So like we were working in cybersecurity, I had someone who owned a double glazing company who we did work for as well. I've done work for loads of different companies, including a dance company as well, who was doing a production of The Secret Garden. We handled all of their PR and marketing as well for that. Yeah. And so I went from having all these different varying projects to one company.
And you're just like, I need to do things.
It's really hard though, isn't it? And I think like you need that extra stimulation, don't you, definitely, to keep you going.
I think I've got like the perfect mixture of everything because I'm an intensive care nurse, so no day is the same. Yeah. It's very different. You go in and you never know what you're going to be up against. And I really like having the quite sick patients because it's like go, that high pressure environment. So I've got that, which is really good for my ADHD brain. Then I've got the creativity, so like the social media influencer side of it. Even the PR and marketing is quite a creative business, and of course the podcast as well. And it's a lot of like talking to different people, lots of different types of tasks to do. So I think I flourish in all of those areas. The place that I do not flourish is parenthood.
Yeah.
Like, nobody tells you how difficult parenthood is as someone who is neurodivergent. It is so difficult.
I think that was one area that I really struggled in because like when I was working, I could come home and that was like my safe space.
Yeah.
It was somewhere I could do my crafting because I used to have a craft blog.
Yeah.
See, many different things.
I've had like 3 craft businesses.
Yeah.
Which lasted like 6 months, and then I got bored and all the shit's in my loft.
Yeah, same. I've got Fimo coming out of my ears. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But I had a crafting blog.
Yeah.
And again, it meant that I was doing one project and I was moving on to another project in a different medium. And I found it really interesting. And I was a brownie leader at the time as well. And so I used to focus mainly on like crafts you could do with your kids.
Yeah.
Do I craft with my kids now? No, I don't, because it's hell, because there are actual children involved in it.
Yeah.
It's all right when they're other people's children and you've got them for like an hour and a half and then they go home. That's fine. When it's your own children and then you have to clean up the mess on your own because there are no other brownie leaders that live in your house with you, it makes it so much more difficult. And it makes me feel like a failure that knowing that Rabbit Crafts is still out there and still exists and has loads of different crafty stuff, that, you know, things and activities on it.
Yeah.
You know, at one point I was getting like 10,000 visitors a month to it.
Yeah.
And then I just completely
got bored of
it.
Got over it.
Yeah. It's incredible. Yeah. And I had it going for like quite a while. I had travel stuff on there as well because I would travel for work.
Yeah.
And then I got bored, it disappeared, it stopped. And I think it was when I moved out of my parents' house. So when I went to uni, I moved back home. I was brownie leading, but I still had evenings to myself. And so I would craft. And then when I moved in with my now husband, that's when the crafting stopped. Yeah. Because then it was like we wanted to spend time with each other. So we'd go out for dinner or we'd go house hunting or we'd do stuff, you know. Yeah. And so that sort of creative side dropped back. But like having kids, I find also like you lose that space for yourself.
Yeah.
And
you can't just run away like with work. If you've had a shit day, you go home, have a glass of wine, and you know, like
read, binge watch your favourite show, make something, you know, do something else, or like not go home, maybe go to the supermarket and just walk around the aisles aimlessly because that helps sometimes. Yeah. But you can't do that when you've got kids, and so in some ways, it's almost like you come home from work and you've walked then back into a battleground, haven't you? Because then there's still people that need you. Yeah. So like nursing, people need you. Is even with the agency side of things, you're doing stuff for other people. Yeah. When do you do the stuff for yourself? It's difficult to find that honestly, space and that time.
I can't deal with people needing me either. Obviously the kids need me, like they're young, they need that. But when my husband asks me to help him with something that he could do himself, I get so cross. Like the other day he was ordering some clothes and he was like, can you measure me? And I was like, measure yourself. Like I'm quite capable of measuring myself, and I don't know why, and it's not his fault, but I get so cross when more people need me because I've got so many people needing me that I don't want to add any more to that list.
No, we had a big debate when we lost our dog back in September last year, and then there was a huge debate about whether we got another dog. Yeah. And unfortunately, I lost the debate about getting a new dog, and we have one. And he's lovely, but we went for a puppy. Yeah. And because, like, if you go for a rescue dog, you have to, you know, some don't like kids and blah, blah, blah. Some are home with older kids, and we have an older kid. But then, of course, we have the younger ones as well. And so we couldn't have rescued a dog. Yeah. It was too difficult. Yeah. So we went for a puppy. And then we had to go through the whole toilet training bit again. Yeah. And all the other stuff, the gnawing at stuff, the ripping things apart stuff as well. And it was just like, it was more. Yeah. Just too much more.
More to add to the plate.
Yeah. It's such a struggle, isn't it? Yeah. And like, I think, like you were saying about people needing you, especially husbands.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like... sometimes it can be cute, but most of the time it can be really difficult because you're thinking, like, I'm trying to keep myself alive.
I sometimes feel sorry for my husband because he grew up with a mum that did absolutely everything for those two boys. Like, she would literally wipe their bum as teenagers if she could. Like, she did everything, did all of their washing, their cleaning, cleaned their rooms for them, like literally pampered them. So then he's had a bit of a shock when he's then come to my house, and because he moved in with me and my parents, and he's come to my house, and I'm just like, do your own shit, like do your own washing, do your own washing up, cook your own dinner. And he's like, wait, I thought you're supposed to be my wife. I thought you're supposed to do this stuff for me. And he really didn't like it to begin with. I think he really wanted like a mum wife. And he didn't get that in me. So I do feel sorry because he's having to undo everything that he's learned through his whole life of having someone do all of this for him. And bless him, like when he asks me to do something for him that he could quite easily do for himself, I'm like, I turn into a bit of a dragon. I'm like, I've got everyone asking me to do everything and now you're asking me to do things.
I think there's several things in that though, isn't there? There's the fact that he's been raised to expect women to do things for him. You know, maybe not intentionally by your mother-in-law, but you know, that's the way he's been raised. You know, and then so he's got to retrain himself to get rid of those expectations. But then equally, there's like my husband was raised in a Turkish Cypriot household. So although his mum worked and she was, you know, at some points the main breadwinner of the house and very successful in what she did, you know, she had help. She had her sisters who could help her with childcare. She had cleaner. She had all of these bits that helped her. And mate, I respect her so much for it because like she, you know, she's the one who really helped me get over the shame of hiring a cleaner, like we were talking about on your podcast. But she has always been the modern woman, but then she's also sort of embodied some of these like women do this kind of stuff in her own house, and my father-in-law perpetuates it as well. So I think sometimes he can be a bit shocked when he comes and Syl's doing the dishwasher, or like he's helping wipe a bottom or get a child dressed or you know, put the hoover around. I think sometimes my father-in-law comes in and he's like, what? But what he doesn't realise is that although like Syl's sort of been raised in this environment where women do this hard slog, you know, he's also been raised in an environment where his mum was very independent. She was, you know, she is the matriarch of the family as well. And so he had to do things for himself. So he learnt to cook, and he does actually know how the washing machine works, even if he pretends not to. But at least he knows how the dishwasher goes. You know, and he's a very hands-on dad as well. So like, you know, if anything's happened, if I'm feeling overstimulated and I'm struggling, he's all hands on deck, which is amazing. But like, there's still some areas where like I struggle. And I think also, you know, with the joys of ADHD, you've got pathological demand avoidance that sometimes comes along with that. So I find it really difficult because he is a manager, he manages teams of people, not just like one. He manages teams of people. So he's used to delegating. So he might come in, and if we've got guests coming around, he'll go, I'm going to do this. Can you put the hoover around? And I've got the hoover in my hand. And then instantly I'm like, you're telling me to do the thing I was just about to do. Fuck off. Not doing it. No, not doing it now. You can, no. I will go and do something completely opposite to what you just told me to do because you told me to do it.
I think that's why I struggle to work for people as well. And I'm like needing to be self-employed because as soon as people start telling me to do things, I'm just like, I can do the opposite now. Like, I can't do it.
I find it really hard. It's something I've had to really, really work on. And I think as well, like having my marketing agency and then also moving into the space that I'm in now. I'm really lucky that I'm in a startup, and I'm really lucky that a lot of my clients were open to my ideas because it meant that I could lead the activity. And so because I work for a startup, there's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of A/B testing, which is so fun. And, you know, and there's no expectation that everything is going to work.
Yeah.
Which is just brilliant. And so although we have KPIs and we have like metrics that we need to meet, they understand that, you know, we haven't tried this thing before.
Yeah.
We're going to try it.
Yeah.
Let's try it. Let's see what works. And if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. And it's so freeing, like working for a startup in that way.
Yeah.
But then in other ways, it's a lot of lastminute.com.
Yeah.
And so because I like to work lastminute.com, and I do tend to leave things quite late before actually doing them myself, because I need that
the pressure,
danger to get things done. A startup environment works really well for me. I find that I kind of thrive in it, but for a lot of other people, they find it too stressful. They want to work in a cubicle under a fluorescent light with the electric that you can hear.
Oh God, no.
It was like the worst year of my life working in an open plan office. The aircon was wrong. The lights were audible. People kept coming past my desk and disrupting me while I was working.
But I also don't like people, so I don't think I could work in an office environment where there's other people. Like on my work from home days, I'm on my own at home. It's great. I work in intensive care because the patients are unconscious. They cannot talk to me. And I'm like, cool, I'm just going to shut my door and just be in here with my unconscious patient and I can focus. And it's like, I really love that I've managed to find these two really different types of work that allow me to just not have to talk to people, apart from my podcast, which I have to talk to people.
But the thing is as well, that I found doing podcasting is that you're talking to people on your terms. Because you're asking the questions. You're leading the conversation. You decide whether you want them on in the first place.
And
that's true. Because you can tell whether you're going to click with someone or not as well, which is great. And when I'm reaching out to people, I only reach out to people that I can qualify. So like when I started the podcast, it was basically as well because I was so fed up of wading through the stream of Instagram bullshit of people going, I'm a life coach and I will make you zen. And it was like...
Or what these ones like, I'll make you £1 million in a month if you sign up to this scheme. And oh God,
no. You won't. No, because it's bullshit. But I think as well, like having ADHD, it gives us a really good perception. I feel like I've got such a good bullshit monitor. Like,
it's like a third eye, isn't it? Like I can literally figure out someone's vibe and like whether they're a good person or a bad person in seconds. And like it may take a year for them to show their true colours, but I'll be like, told you so. And like people never believe me, and I'm like, I can guarantee you like this is not a good vibe. And then like eventually down the line we'll figure it out, and I'm like, okay, I told you.
There was a guy who started working for the company I used to work at, and I said to our COO, I was like, I worked right under him, and I was just like, no, I'm not working with him. And he was like, what do you mean you're not working with him? And I was like, I can't work with this man. He is not right. He's wrong. There's like it. No,
you can't explain it though, can you? It's just like,
I was just like, he gives me snake vibes. I can't do it. And then he pulled the rug from under the COO.
Oh, really?
He did some really nasty stuff, and I was like, I'm not saying anything. And then he came to me afterwards. He was like, yeah, you told me so. I was like, okay, at least I didn't have to say it. But it's really difficult because like I was wading through this river of people who were offering help to parents and also all the people who only show the good stuff. I find that really difficult. I hate seeing influencers who only show the perfect bits. And I think that's what I really liked about your account was that you weren't focusing on the bad, but equally you were keeping it real. And I think like, and also like your really funny short videos as well at the moment, where there's one where you roly-poly into the video.
I actually really hurt myself doing that. That was because I do a lot of those like transition ones. And they usually really involve like a handstand or a roly-poly. And I am not equipped for that. Like I do not have the bones for that anymore. And I've injured myself many a time. I think the roly-poly one, I rolled and then like shinned the edge of the sofa, and I was like, oh, I should do a BTS video actually of all the like me just rolling in agony on the floor where I hurt myself or like pulled my neck or something.
Of the things that went wrong.
But yeah, you've got to show the realities of parenthood, because it's not all sparkles and rainbows. And I've actually had a lot of shit for showing the bad sides of it. People are like, oh, you're always complaining. You chose to have kids, like that old chestnut. But actually, like when I started to share the realities, people were coming forward like, oh, I had no idea anyone else was feeling this way. And like, I'm so glad you shared this because I feel the same. And like no one else does, like shares this stuff. So I'm sharing it to help people feel less alone, really.
I think that's the real thing about it. And that's why I started the podcast, because I wanted people to be able to find people who were speaking about stuff that was actually helpful, and do it in a way where it just felt like two friends having a conversation. And that was the best review I ever got, was because the whole aim of the podcast was for it to be relaxed, for it to be like two best mates having a chat about something really important. And then someone actually left me that as a review, and I was like, I've done it. I've hit the nail on the head. I've done what I planned to come here and do. And although my listenership is, you know, up and down, because people pick and choose what episodes they want to listen to, there's some people who listen to all of them. I'm just like, what, are you crazy? But they do, and it's really nice to have people who like have hung around, and other guests who then come on, and then they're like, they write to me afterwards and they're like, oh, I listened to your episode with so and so and it was brilliant. And I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't realise you actually listened to the podcast. You know, you come on, but they do, and it's really nice to know that people actually resonate with it. But I find that like sometimes people approach me to come on, and I'm just like, I don't think we're the right fit. Yeah,
I mean, I used to kind of just accept everyone that came on, because especially when I moved into the studio, because I was like, people aren't going to come. Like, people just are not going to want to come.
Did you really feel like that?
Yeah, literally. I used to get imposter syndrome all the time. Darren used to tell me off. It's like, people will come. But I used to think they wouldn't. So I used to just accept whoever was willing to come to the studio. And then I got to the point where there were people that I wasn't really like gelling with. And the conversation wasn't flowing and things like that. So then we got to the point where I was kind of more picking and choosing a bit more who was coming on based on personality, what we'd be able to talk about. And it feels easier now. It feels much easier.
I think that's the thing. Like, I've had people who've wanted to come on and talk about like spiritual things and crystals and stuff, and I'm really sorry if that's your vibe.
I mean, I love a crystal, right? I love a crystal because they're pretty.
Yes.
But like, we've had a few as well, and I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to like make that relatable. You know,
not find me charging my amethyst by the light of the moon, unfortunately.
Mine have all got dust on them on my windowsill now, but they still look pretty.
That's the thing. And so like my mum, as I mentioned on your podcast, is a hypnotherapist and was a teacher for many years, but she's also a counsellor as well. And when I did my A-levels, I did psychology, biology, communication studies, because I've got quite an analytical mind. I am that boring. I really like a spreadsheet of like of analytics.
That's
and
so
stuff.
Sexy.
It's so cool. I love knowing more about the people I'm reaching out to. And so like when I go into like my Spotify account and I see all the people who've been listening to the podcast, and I can go, so they are mostly 25 to 45 and this, that and the other and everything else. It's really interesting to me, like seeing who listens and learning more about the listeners, but also like people that the company I work for like sells to and things like that. I love analytics because they help you do your job better, right? The more you know about someone, the better you can work. And so like when it comes to like some of the more out there styles of thinking, I can find it really difficult because my logical brain just goes, no, that's not right. And so everyone I've had on is like, been through that experience that they're talking about. You know, they've really struggled that they're talking about. You know, they've really struggled with like the mental load, and they've reframed it and they've worked their way through it. Or like Kat Sims came on and we spoke about the mental load, but then we also spoke about her journey through sobriety and everything as well. And
because she's also got ADHD as well. So
I found that really interesting, because although I'm self-diagnosed with ADHD, I have never had an addiction in that way. Yeah. And so I found it really interesting.
I think I'm addicted to work. I think that's my addiction.
I think I'm addicted to work and caffeine.
I only drink tea, so I don't think caffeine's like my addiction, but I could not live without a cup of tea. Yeah. But I'm also a massive emotional eater as well. And I think that's an ADHD thing.
Oh, yeah, it can be. Yeah.
If I have a good day at work, I'm like, cool, I deserve a treat because I've had a great day at work and I've done a great job. If I have a shit day at work, I'm like, I deserve a treat because I've had a shit day at work. And that's a big problem for me. But other than that, and like the work addiction, I don't think I have like an actual addiction.
I think I am addicted to the work, but then I can't live without caffeine. I once gave up caffeine for Lent. It's meant to be really bad for you if you've got ADHD, but equally I've read more about it being a self-stimulation, like a self-medication thing, because obviously, you know, to treat ADHD they give you stimulants. And caffeine's a stimulant. And so I do rely very heavily on it, and I should probably cut back. But I have very little to no intention of doing that anytime soon, when kids are still waking me up in the night.
I started intermittent fasting, and partly to try and deal with the emotional eating side of things, but you can't drink anything other than water, and it wasn't the food that was bothering me. Hunger doesn't bother me at all. Tea. I needed a cup of tea and I missed it. I was like, I can't do this. So that's what stopped my intermittent fasting, was the tea.
That's the thing. Like I've got a friend, and she could be a vegetarian if she wanted to be. But the one thing that holds her back is bacon. See, I could probably be vegan, but the one thing that holds me back is cheese. I love cheese.
I can't do without cheese.
No.
Like, I get home from a shift sometimes at 8 o'clock at night, and I'll go in and just eat a block of cheese because I'm like, I love cheese.
I started working with a PT who'd come on my podcast. So I'd had another PT who'd come to ask if they could come on, and my bullshit-ometer just went, and I was like, no. And then another PT that I'd been talking to didn't ask. And because he didn't ask, I asked him. And also he's pitching himself for parents on the understanding that parents have little to no time. And although people say, oh, it's only 4% of your day.
Oh, I fucking hate that.
That's shit.
I follow one. He's an old friend of mine, so I feel like I can't unfollow him because like he'll be like, why have you unfollowed me? But he's always like, oh, no excuses for getting your summer body. Like, everyone has the same 24 hours. And I'm like, no, hun, when you've got ADHD, you have way less hours.
So luckily, I'm pretty sure that Jack has ADHD. And when we were working together at first, it meant video calls every week. It meant filling out a form every week. And it wasn't till I graduated and moved to the next stage of the programme that I really fell off. Because there was less contact, and I needed that accountability to keep going. But when we were filling out the first, like, the get to know you questionnaire kind of thing, like, what are your favourite foods? And I put down toasted sandwiches, pasta, this,
all the
that,
things
the other.
That he doesn't want you to have.
Well, no, luckily, again, he understood that, you know, you can eat any food, just in moderation. And so instead of working on cutting out certain foods, we worked on increasing the quantities of like protein and stuff. And reducing calories. And so instantly I was like cutting certain things out without even realising I was doing it. So it was quite useful. But we realised very quickly that all of my favourite foods were just a vehicle for cheese.
That's literally
like, me. What do you have with your chili con carne? Cheese. What do you have with your nachos? Cheese. What do you have in your toasted sandwiches? Cheese. What do you have on your pasta? Cheese. And everything was cheese. And they were my favourite quick meals, easy to make, usually while I was hungry, because I have no idea of when I'm going to get hungry. I don't like make food to a time.
Yeah.
I make food when I'm hungry. And by that point, I'm then snacking because I'm hungry.
See, I avoid the bread, the pasta, the everything. I literally just bite cheese, like a block of cheese.
I would very easily eat an entire block of cheese on my own.
Yeah.
Very easily.
That's my problem.
But the other day, like my husband went out for work and then I had like a really bad headache and I wasn't feeling great. And he was like, but have you eaten?
I've had a block of cheese.
No, I was just in hyper-focus the whole time.
Oh, yeah, I forget to eat regularly.
And I'd forgotten to eat. And I was just like, it's 3:00 and I actually haven't eaten anything today.
Yeah.
That could be why I've got a headache.
We're so sporadic, aren't we? Because we can forget to eat for the entire day, but then of an evening destroy the whole cupboard's worth of snacks. Yeah. So I think that's where my body's just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, you're so weird. But yeah, I think I need an ADHD personal trainer that understands it. I used to, do you know who James Smith is?
No.
He's a famous personal trainer. He used to be my PT. Yeah. And he's definitely got ADHD, but he moved to Australia and is famous now. But he used to be my PT and we got on so well. Yeah. Like, he's the only ever personal trainer that I've had where I've done it. Like, I've done what he told me to do because I think he got it. Yeah. And now I just can't get on with any of them. I just can't.
I really struggle. Like we were saying on your podcast as well, I find peopling really hard. Yeah. And so like having that space at home, working from home, that makes my house feel like a safe space away from my kids. Yeah. Because then my kids aren't there. I've got this time in my house on my own to do the things that I need to do. Yeah. But also, one thing that we did was we turned the summer house at the end of our garden into the office so that we could shut the door on work. Yeah. And then not bring work into the house. Yeah. And that made a huge difference as well, because otherwise, like, when my desk was in my bedroom, I would work and then it would be 2 a.m. Yeah. And then I'd be like, and then I get the time anxiety. Yeah. Like, oh my God, when am I going to actually get some sleep?
Oh my God, I've got to be up at 7. Therefore, if I go to bed now, I'm going to only get 4 hours sleep.
Yeah, and then the countdown starts,
and then the countdown starts, and then you can't sleep because you're counting down.
Shit, yes, it's horrible. It's like the worst. You're literally just sitting there thinking, well, now it's 2 hours. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm going to have a nap in the car in the car park during my lunch break. Yeah. And you're like really panic. I panic about time. I find time really hard. Like, I know people who can get into such a hyper focus about their thing that they forget time. Yeah. But for me, I feel like I get such anxiety about time that I'm constantly aware of it. Yeah, same. And then I end up with waiting anxiety.
Oh yeah, if you've got an appointment at 3:00 in the afternoon, you're busy that day. Yeah. You can't do anything that day because you've got something at 3:00 in the afternoon. Yeah. Yeah.
So like with doctor's appointments and things, I try and set them as early in the morning as possible because then I can actually get stuff done during the day. Yeah, yeah. Because otherwise I'll be waiting. Oh,
it's weird how our brains work. It's like, and anyone who's not got ADHD that's listening to this is probably like, what? Like, is that a real thing? But yeah, it's real. It
would be really interesting to know more about neurotypical people, I think, because like, I think automatically I am sort of like drawn to people who are more like me.
Yeah, same.
And so it turns out that like, you know, later on, like, oh, that friend that I've been really good friends with for years is autistic. Yeah. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, definitely. Like, you end up hanging around in herds of neurodiverse people. You think everyone's normal.
Herd, me and two of my ADHD friends went to Las Iguanas for cocktails, and we were chatting at the bar and we were talking about all sorts. We were talking about sun cream, then stickers, then snails, then how parasites infect snails, and then we were talking about something else. And the barman just looked at us like, what the fuck? And I was like, isn't it great having a conversation with ADHD people? Because even today we've talked about like motherhood, cheese. Yeah. We've just gone off on a tangent.
But this is the thing, like on my way here talking to my mum, we were talking about the nervous system, how that's made up of chemicals and neurons and so on, and then how you balance that and what is balancing your nervous system and all of this sort of stuff. And, you know, because I keep seeing all these videos of people saying, you need to balance your nervous system. And I'm just like, fuck? It's chemicals. Like, are you taking something? Oh no, you're breathing differently. How does that work? And the bullshit thing in my head goes, I don't think this is right. And so I thought, I'll speak to my mum, who is a trained therapist and hypnotherapist, and and she was like, I think when we're talking about balancing our nervous system, we're actually talking about a combination of mindfulness and boundary setting. And I was like, oh, now I understand it. It clicks. Okay. Yeah. So, but people I feel like we're getting a lot of rephrasing at the moment of certain things. Yeah. And so, like, especially like moving from mindfulness, which seems to have got a bit of a bad rap with, the term self-care as well, to then being now reframed as balancing your nervous system. And it's quite interesting, like when people sort of are trying to shift the dial so that it's acceptable again by changing the name of it and like combining a couple of approaches as well. And I was just like, oh, okay. So we had this huge psychological, philosophical discussion in the car on the way here, and my brain was on fire just looking at the road, and I was like, oh, this is nice. I've really enjoyed. So
that's how you missed the turning.
Yes, exactly.
You're like deep in a conversation,
but that's
about
the
the nervous
thing.
system.
But like we went round in a big circle. And it's all because of my tangent taking. But it's quite fun, like, as you said, having conversations with friends about random stuff as well, like that. Yeah. And I think it just makes life more interesting. Yeah, I love it. I love a good ADHD conversation. Just talk about all sorts of shit. It's great. So, being, nurse and influencer and all of these things and mum. What would you say, like, I mean, being a parent does feel like a battleground, especially when you're neurodivergent and certain things can be quite overstimulating, too much noise, they want the telly on, they're asking you 20 bazillion questions while you're trying to make dinner. The fan, the extractor fan. The worst noise on the planet. Instantly feel relaxed when that's gone off. All of those things combine to make your evening hell. And then you have to wash them. And it's just a nightmare because then there's water all over the floor. Someone falls, someone cries. It's like the worst, right? Do you feel like there's anything that you do particularly that sort of like helps you navigate the parenting side of things? I would love to say yes. Or is it still a struggle? I would love to say yes, but I just regularly burn out. And then I'll hit burnout and I'll think, right, I've got to sort my shit out. I've got to look after myself. I'll do some mindfulness. So like I'll read, I'll have a long soak in the bath, I'll have some time with friends, like do the things that bring me joy for a couple of days. I'll feel a bit better. And then back I go again into working constantly, like doing all the things with the kids, like being the perfect mum, doing the activities, taking them out for days out and things, and then we're back to burnout. And I'm like, why can't I just find this middle ground of like do one activity a week with the kids, do one day out a week with the kids over the summer holidays, do a little bit of work here and there. No, I'm in a constant cycle of look after myself, burn out, look after myself, burn out. Yeah, I find I'm the same. I find it really difficult to balance it all. And then I go through fits and spurts of like doing certain things. So, like planning at the beginning of the month and then it all going to shit by the end of the month. And I really struggle and I find it really hard. And, like we were talking about on your podcast, the charts and the things to help. People always say to me, like, how do you do it all? And I'm like, I genuinely don't have an answer for that question. I usually blame the ADHD and it being a superpower. I have to write everything down because do you ever get it where you think of something and you're like, I'm going to remember this, and you repeat it over and over and over in your head and you're like, oh, a bird, and then it's gone. And you're like, fuck, what was I trying to remember? I regularly walk into rooms and forget why I'm there, and I'm like, and I have this, my husband gets really annoyed with me because I keep saying, where are we now? Where are we up to? where are we up to? Because I'm trying to ask myself, like, where are we up to, like, in the conversation? Like, where did I get to before I went off on the tangent and forgot the thing that I was actually originally speaking about? Yeah. Or where are we? Like, I'm in the bedroom for a reason. I came here to get something. What did I come here to get? I came here to get this. Yeah. Or sometimes it's really annoying, but it's almost like the door frame is like some sort of like memory wiping device. Do you find that? Like, you've walked into the bedroom and you're like, shit, I can't remember why I'm here. And then you walk back out and you're like, you were meant to get the Febreze. You took it in there to make the carpet not smell of something, probably poo. And now you need to take it back to the kitchen. And you're like, right, okay. And then you walk back in the room and you're like, why am I here? And then you walk back out again, you're back at the kitchen, you're under the sink, and then you remember you were meant to get the Febreze to make the carpet that you took in there in the first place to make the carpet not smell of poo. And it's just like, oh my God. And it's like this door frame wiping thing all the time. It's so frustrating. Yeah. I even tried to put bacon in where the cling film goes and the cling film in the fridge the other day.
Yeah, I do that a lot. And then I'm like, where is the thing that I'm looking for? And I've lost it now. And then, or I'll be looking for my phone and I'm on the phone to one of my friends. And she's like, what are you doing? You sound really frantic. And I'm like, I just can't find my phone. She's like, babe, you're on your phone. Yeah. And I'm like, oh.
Or there's times where I think like, like if I'm getting ready for a night out, I might wear contact lenses. Very rare because glasses are life. I can't be bothered with all that shit. And so sometimes I might put contact lenses in and then either I'm constantly poking my nose all night or as I'm getting ready, I think I've got them in and I'm still wearing my glasses. Yeah. And I'm like, where are my glasses? I can't find my glasses. And my husband's like, you're an idiot. You're wearing them. Hello. Yeah. Like, oh, thank you. Oh. But it's a struggle. And I think the thing is that instead of like, people ask me as well, like how I juggle it all. And I don't understand how people get this idea that I'm so put together because I feel like a hot mess, like constantly.
I'm literally the least put together person you'll ever meet. And although from the outside it maybe looks like I do because I have so many things, the majority of the time, all the things that I'm doing are not doing well. Like I'm, what's the saying? Like if you put... Jack of all trades. But also if you put all your eggs into multiple baskets, like one thing will be my hyper focus, that will be doing well. Yeah. But the rest of the things will not be doing so well. So depending on where, like my marketing agency recently has been having a real big dip in clients. Like we had like 40 influencers at one point, but clearly my hyper focus went elsewhere because it all started to just drop off. And I was like, oh fuck, I've got to focus on that again. But then that means like my podcast or my Instagram won't be doing so well. But I spread myself so thin that I don't have my shit together. And I think people have this perception of me that I'm put together, but I'm definitely not.
It's really funny because like, if my husband's away, I get into a better routine. So like if he's gone to like Canada on business or something, and he's away for a week, I get the kids' clothes ready the night before. I get their pajamas ready in the morning so that they're ready. I have all the food sorted for the week. I know what we're going to eat. Yeah. Because I'm shit at making decisions on the spot. Yeah. I hate it. I get decision fatigue as well. So like if I've made too many decisions at work and then he's asking me what I want for dinner, I'm like, you need to pick dinner because I literally can't. I've been delegating and making choices at work and I can't now even think about food. And so because of that decision fatigue, I can be quite annoying because I'm like, it's up to you. Yeah. It can be quite frustrating for the other people in my life. I know that for a fact. And also like with the peopling, I have not been peopling. I've been working and because I've been so focused on work, I've neglected the podcast and then I've also neglected talking to friends and family. And so my mum has messaged me a couple of times like, you've disappeared. Are you okay? And then my friend Ruth has been trying to organise stuff to do during the summer holidays. And then I can tell that she's like wondering if I'm all right because I've disappeared again. My sister, I know, is in the same spot as me because we both disappeared.
Yeah.
Like, we've even stopped sending each other reels on Instagram. We're so tired.
Yeah.
And so, like, I know I could, like, you pick up on how people are, about how active they are with you as well.
Yeah.
And I've just stopped peopling. I've stopped podcasting. I've just been focused on work, and reaching the end of term has been a difficult one.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, is like, there's certain areas of your life where you end up focusing a bit more, and you might have a sunflower in one place and a bit of like really dodgy watercress growing somewhere else, but eventually that watercress is going to flourish, the sunflower will die, it'll produce some more seeds, we'll scatter them somewhere else, and our focus will then move on to the next things.
You've just got to be kind to yourself and accept that is sometimes how it is, and you can't like be everyone. What is the saying? You can do anything but not everything.
Yeah,
I love that.
I like that. I'm gonna have to write that down somewhere, and then forget
it's
about it.
On my wall. Put it on your wall and then you can't forget about it.
Maybe I'll screenshot it and look at it in about 10 years time.
In amongst your other 20,000 screenshots.
So one last thing I really wanted to talk to you about was the influencer side of things. Like, how did that come about? How did you sort of like fall into that space? And what is it that you really enjoy about all of that?
So believe it or not, I started out as a fitness influencer. Not that you can tell now, but I was a fitness influencer. That's how I gained the majority of my following. Amazing. Because I used to be a bikini athlete. So this was back when I had James Smith as my PT. So I competed on stage for aesthetic bodybuilding competitions, got up to like 15,000 followers, and I was like starting to get free stuff, and I was like, oh, this is quite good. I like this. Then I went traveling. I met my husband and went traveling, and it turned into like a travel-y blog kind of thing. And then when I got back, I got pregnant straight away. So it was like a really quick transition from fitness to travel to parenthood. And I started to share like the realities of parenthood, and people resonated with it, and the followers grew and grew. And before I knew it, people were reaching out wanting to pay me for brand work. I knew nothing about it. I didn't set out to be an influencer. It just kind of happened. And even now, sometimes when brands approach me, I'm kind of a bit like, what, me? You want me? I don't understand. And obviously I've got management now, so they do it all for me. And I speak to other influencers who are much, much bigger than I am, like an event that I went to recently with massive influencers, and they're like, oh no, hon, you should be charging like £2,000 a post. And I'm like, £2,000? Like, I'm happy with like 200 quid. So I'm having to try and get into that mindset of like knowing the worth of my page and get rid of that imposter syndrome. But it's hard when you're just a normal human being that just happened to grow a following from being yourself on Instagram.
I think that's like the main thing that I really like and look for in the people that I follow as well, is like people being themselves. I really hate it when there's people who are just trying to portray this perfection. And I really struggle to relate to it. But like you were saying about like knowing your worth, when I was trying to price up my services for my marketing agency, I found that really difficult as well. And I ended up talking to a coach about all of that, because I was like, what do I do? How do I do this? Like, how do I come up with a price list and everything? And she sort of made me realise that actually I was good at what I did, and that I was worth the money. And so I came up with my pricing, and people were paying me. And I found that when I was cheaper, people were less interested in working with me, because I think it sort of showed that I had less confidence in myself. By being able to charge more money, I was able to say, no, I'm good at what I do. You can trust that I'm good at this. I know what I'm talking about. And I think also like having that higher pricing meant that people were more serious about working with you as well, because they wanted to get the most out of their money as well.
Definitely.
And so it's really difficult, isn't it? Like trying to trying to price yourself, I think especially with like having ADHD, it's very easy to be really critical of yourself, to put yourself down, to lose your self-worth. And so we do end up struggling with this imposter syndrome, like, why am I here? What, am I worth this?
Yeah.
And actually you are. And although it's really difficult to see it in yourself, so easy to see it in everyone else. I'm the biggest hype man. Like if I see one of my friends struggling, thinking, oh no, I can't do this, I'm like, yeah, you can. What are you on about? You're a boss bitch. Come on, sort your life out. You've got this. And then they go off and they're happy and they get it done. Yeah. And then they say the same to me and I'm like, no, I'm terrible. I'm the worst. I can't do this. No one wants to hear me babble about shit for an hour. Oh yeah, they do. They listen. It's like, oh, okay, it's weird. But yeah, I think that's one of the funny things about starting my podcast, was that I didn't think anyone was going to listen. And as people started listening, I was like, okay,
what's going on?
Yeah, what's happening here? Did you feel the same with yours?
Oh yeah, definitely. Started? Mine was more of like just a hobby to begin with. It was like, cool, we'll just like pass the time through lockdown. And then people started listening, started reviewing it on like Apple Podcasts and putting like how much they loved it and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, people like it, let's carry on. And then it's just like grown and grown from there to what it is now, and we're everywhere now, which is amazing.
So what does the future hold for Lottie?
I'm going to say lots, because there's always something going on. I'd really love the podcast to finally win an award. I've been nominated for 2 awards, and we were speaking before we came on air about how hard it is to win an award in the podcast arena, because celebrities do podcasts and we're not celebrities. So I'd really love the podcast to win an award, and I think that's the next step for the podcast. And then the marketing agency, I really want that to fly as well. Just all the things. I want them all to fly.
I think that's just the other struggle though as well. Is even though we as ADHDers do sometimes lack an attention to detail in some things, we are perfectionists at heart. And it's really difficult because we want to achieve. And that's why a lot of ADHDers, I think, are actually quite high achievers, because they have such high expectations of themselves. And I feel the same. I would love to win an award. I was nominated for a Listener's Choice Award last year for the British Podcasting Awards. And I'd love to win that, or at least go. But I've got my goals. I'm at that point now where I'd like a sponsor. I'd love to be in a studio all the time. Just saying.
It's great. It's great.
But equally, like, I want to be able to get to that point where I can then start delegating things to people, and it's not all on me.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you found that's been
it's the best, honestly. I freaking hated editing. I hated it. But I had so much imposter syndrome about moving to a studio. I was like, why would anyone want to see that? Why would I pay for that when I'm just like a basic bitch in her living room, just like chatting to people? But then I did it, and it's been the best thing ever, because now I don't have to edit anymore, and it's great. I
think it's really funny, like some of the podcasts that I've been on, like I've always tried to make sure that my background looked professional and stuff, and then sometimes there's like been 1 or 2 where I've been invited as a guest, and someone's got like a cat tree in the background, and I'm just like, and you're not on Blur? What's going on? It's just like, again, like there's me with my marketing experience and production values in the back of my head, and like people are seeing this. You know, podcasts aren't just sound anymore, they're video as well. It's just like, it's quite funny. It's difficult.
I do love it, and I'm now here in the studio, which is amazing.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for coming on mine.
It's been a really fun day. It's been so nice speaking with you, learning more about you. And you know, I've been one of your loyal followers for a while. So it's really nice to actually meet you in person. And I think that's one of the scary things though sometimes, is when you actually meet like someone who you followed for a while, who has like quite a big following, and you kind of think, oh my God, I'm just like a mere peasant. And
I never think like that though, ever.
No, but literally everyone I've ever met in person as well has always turned out to be like the nicest. Like I ran into Kelly Taylor at Piz Up.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And we danced and hugged and had the best time, and it was so
lovely.
good.
Yeah.
And you know, I just think that like podcasting gives us so much access to so many other really nice people, and helps make some really lovely connections.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me and you.
So that's it for us today. If you'd like to follow me and find out more about the podcast, do head over to my Instagram at mumsworkandchaos, or head over to the website mumsworkandchaos.com, and you'll also find us on YouTube. And where can everyone find you?
So you can find me on my personal page at A Little Bit of Lottie, or on my podcast page, Tits, Tums and All Things Mum. And the podcast is everywhere, all the platforms, and on YouTube as well.
If you enjoyed this episode of Mum's Work and Chaos, please make sure to subscribe on whatever podcasting channel you're listening on at the moment. Or if you'd like to get involved, feel free to email me at mumsworkandchaos@gmail.com, or follow us on Instagram at mumsworkandchaos. See you then.